We set out to try to show what it was like in Vietnam for the Vietnamese, and that's never really been done on the scale that we tried to do it. So the first trip to Vietnam, which I made in 2012, that's when I really realized, okay, we are really doing this thing. We're going to really do what we said we wanted to do.
So 6 years ago, you were 4 years into the project or so.
Yeah.
And then you thought, okay, 4 years in, okay, we're definitely gonna have to do this now.
Well, more like we're going to pull it off. Like it's going to happen.
And that was in 2012.
Yeah.
On that trip to Vietnam. And what was it about the trip to Vietnam? Was it securing those interviewees and finding the people who would be honest enough?
Yeah.
To and also because they do talk about some things which aren't necessarily allowed to be discussed in public, I believe.
Right. So it's all of the above, really. It was just being able to connect with people with the language barrier and the translation and all of that, and try to explain who we were, what we're doing, what we wanted to know, because in Vietnam, people don't speak about the war that much. And when they do, it's kind of this general collective experience. And people don't speak about their own stories much. And they don't really reveal themselves that much, especially to a foreigner with a camera.
The political narrative of the time was East versus West.
Yeah.
The proxy as well as white hot. It was an ideological battle of capitalism and communism.
Yeah.
But was that really it? Was that?
Well, I think, like everything, it's more complicated, right? So there's nationalism, there's communism, there's capitalism, and there's American exceptionalism, and all these things are at play. There's colonialism and the end of colonialism. That's a huge part of this story.
Yeah.
Right? And there's also China and Vietnam, China and Russia, which are supposed to be the monolithic communist bloc. They don't get along, okay? So that's a huge thing for Americans to recognize, that part of what's going on in Vietnam has to do with tension between China and Russia at that time, huge communist powers. And then you have Vietnam and China don't get along. And then you have South Vietnam and America don't really always get along. So there's just a lot more complexity and nuance.
As a documentarian and filmmaker, do you think about where we are now, and you think about how long it'll take before we're able to make works which cover the current period?
Yeah, we get asked a lot, when are you going to make a film about what's happening in America politically right now, or the rise of nationalism, or the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, which are still ongoing in some ways. And we sort of feel 25 years is about enough time to begin to have some perspective, to not be taking a purely journalistic look at something. So 25 years from now, I hope we'll know what this all means, because right now, none of us can figure it out, honestly.
I mean, that quarter of a century, you need that amount of time for those ripples to move along and push people in directions, and then we finally understand why we are where we are.
One hopes. I mean, it's hard to see 5 years from now if we can look back and say what happened now and why. I mean, I don't think that we can. I don't think we can make sense of, let's say, the presidency of Barack Obama and what it really meant. Because what's happening now is obviously partly a result of that. And we never could have predicted that, or I couldn't have. Maybe other people could have. The kind of resentment that just was, boiling below the surface during that entire time is obviously part of what is going on. So I think we do need some time. 25 years is sort of arbitrary, but we need some time to really make sense of it.